Islam is a religion that is extremely restrictive on women. Oftentimes, this leads to a less than ideal outcome for a woman and her children. Today, I saw a story that touched my heart of a young man whose mother went against the grain and defied Islamic rules, and her life didn't implode or become worse.
A lot of people were saying that my mom shouldn't be allowed to marry somebody who's not Muslim. And that just breaks my heart because a lot of people online don't know my family's story and what we've been through.
This young man's Muslim mother did what is forbidden in Islam, marrying a non-Muslim man. On this channel, I have shared a lot of my own personal journey of loss while pregnant, raising my baby girl on my own, and the hellish experience I had of trying to remarry as a widow in a Muslim community. Prominent Muslim speakers give apocalyptic style talks when it comes to raising kids in the West, making Muslim parents feel a sense of pending doom and fear if their children do not grow up with Islam. What is this young man's thoughts about his mother marrying a non-Muslim? Did it contribute to a good outcome in his life, or the opposite? Let's get into it. This video is from a young man that speaks about his experience of his mother marrying a non-Muslim man when they came to the United States as a family from Kazakhstan. I relate to this story because I struggled with the same thing his mom did, which is to find a good partner in the Muslim community as a single mom. In Islam, it is forbidden for Muslim women to marry a non-Muslim man, and there are plenty of Islamic sources to support this. In Surah 60:10, Allah tells the believing men that believing women are not lawful for disbelieving men. It says it here plain as day. So just remember that this is unanimously agreed upon by the scholars as forbidden for a Muslim woman to do. The surah says this: "These women are not lawful wives for the disbelievers, nor are the disbelievers lawful husbands for them." So there you have it. The Quran speaks to the permissibility of marrying outside the faith. Even though Islam says it's technically not allowed, do all Muslims follow this to a T? No, they absolutely do not. And there are clear real-life examples of this. From the perspective of the Quran and Hadith, Islam itself is a barrier to love, but that doesn't mean people are going to let that stop them. And why should they? Everyone deserves happiness, like this young man's mother. Let's ask ourselves, what does it take to be a parent that gives a child a good outcome in life? Is it the religion the father identifies with and practices enough to give a child a good outcome? Is there more to this whole parenting thing and creating and raising a good human outside of religion? I will get back to that in a bit, but let's get back to the reason you guys came here, to listen to what this 19-year-old young man had to say about his mother remarrying a white, non-Muslim man who raised him. Without further ado, let's listen to Sayat speak.
Is my white stepdad Muslim? Not at all. And when I told people that he's non-religious, it sparked a lot of controversy. Let's just say the comments were a little interesting. A lot of people were saying that my mom shouldn't be allowed to marry somebody who's not Muslim. And that just breaks my heart because a lot of people online don't know my family's story and what we've been through. Growing up, I didn't have a father because at the age of 3 years old, my biological father, who was a Muslim, abandoned me. So for a good part of my childhood, I didn't have a father figure. And because of that, it put a lot of pressure onto my single mother to take care of 2 kids and raise them to be men. And after a few years of living in America, my mother met my stepfather, who I call my father personally because he's the only person who's cared for me like that. And although he wasn't a Muslim, he was a man who was willing to take care of 2 young boys and treat them like his own. He's not related to me at all, but he single-handedly made it possible for me to have a future. I will always be grateful for him because my stepdad is willing to do the job that my Muslim biological father chose to abandon. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but love has no guidelines. It has no standards. I can't control who my mother marries. But I'll tell you this, she chose the right person for her and for her 2 sons. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit emotional and I said this, which I apologize for. But words can't describe how much I care for my parents' relationship and how much I respect my stepfather. 70% of prisoners come from fatherless homes, and it's hard to think that I could have been one of them. But yeah, that's my response. Love you guys. See y'all soon.
Wow. Well, you look at that. This young man is wise beyond his years. He's 19 years old, and he is able to recognize the struggle his mother went through to take care of him and his brother in the absence of his father. And he recognizes why she married the man that she did. I loved how he said love has no guidelines and no standards, because we know in Islam there are conditions on marriage, what religion the child is raised with, and who the children are allowed to be raised by. We actually have a video about this if you want to know more about how awful child custody is in the event a Muslim woman remarries. You know, teens are often known to be like mini toddlers, no offense to the teens, but they're often known to be like mini toddlers with the tantrums, impulsive choices, and overall selfishness, but it's clear this young man has been raised a certain way. If you were ever a step-parent, you know that the biological pull towards one's own flesh and blood is a hard pull, to say the least.
I posted this picture of my family yesterday, and now all of a sudden everybody thinks I'm Asian. I hate to break it to everybody, but I'm 100% Kazakh. Now you might be wondering, why is there a white family next to the Kazakh family? Well, that's because right before I moved to the United States, my actual dad abandoned me. A while after we moved to the United States, my mother met a wonderful man who is now my stepfather, but I treat him like my actual father. He's the only father figure I've had in my life, and his family treats me with so much respect as if I'm their own blood. There hasn't been a single time where I haven't called my stepdad my father. He's taught me more than anything my biological father would have ever taught me. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question about if I'm Asian or not. I'm not, but I consider myself my stepdad's son.
Clearly, Sayat has made his feelings known about the biological pull he has or does not have. In so many instances where there's a step-parent, the step-parent will come into the child's life and do more than the biological parent, be kinder, more involved in their life, and overall a better influence. But the child is unable to see the difference because of that strong biological pull. You can't blame kids because they're kids and they don't know any better. But in this case, this is where a young man is in full understanding from his own lived experience that the religion of his biological father means absolutely nothing in comparison to his white stepfather, the person who raised him and taught him how to be a man. Muslims will often cite reasons for Muslim women not marrying non-Muslim men because they won't give them their quote-unquote rights. These quote-unquote rights are basically a mahr, which means a bridal gift in the form of money or some other gift. Now, last time I checked, women get gifts and lavish weddings all the time when they marry non-Muslim men. In fact, I got a beautiful engagement ring and a beautiful wedding ring. If I was still a Muslim, what would I ask for as a mahr? I mean, I would probably want a ring of some sort, even though many Muslims consider wedding rings haram. I got that with my new atheist ex-Muslim husband. I would probably ask for clothes, but wait a second. My husband takes care of me in that way too, which is something else Muslim women are supposed to be entitled to, which is financial maintenance. Muslim women will also go on and on about how whatever money they make is theirs and their husband isn't entitled to any, but isn't that a decision that can be easily made as a couple without Allah and Muhammad meddling in your life? I have seen a lot of Christian couples and couples from other backgrounds where the husband is the full-time breadwinner and the wife has a side business and she keeps her own money. You don't need Islam to make these sort of life decisions for yourself and your marriage. Plus, we have seen over and over and over again how Muslim men take advantage of Muslim women. And I even knew women who would get an allowance from their Muslim husband, aka the financial maintenance, and they would hide and hoard this money because the husband would try to take it back. Don't be fooled. Just because this is painted as some sort of flowery, beautiful right women have, Muslim men still don't follow it and financially abuse women, just like anyone else can. What other so-called rights is a Muslim woman missing out on when she marries a non-Muslim man? Oh, that's right. She's missing out on getting a shitty inheritance when her father or husband dies, because in Islam, women get a really crappy deal with that. She would also lose her right to a crappy Islamic-style annulment divorce, also known as khula, whereas her Muslim husband can issue her a triple talaq and immediately be done with her. A khula is basically when the Muslim woman is allowed to request divorce, but she has to pay back her mahr. That is truly a crappy deal, because if women have the right to stay at home, as Islam says, where are they getting money to pay back their mahr? Muslims might counter it with the whole, this is why a mahr should be modest, but then they will also tell you in the same breath that a woman could ask for anything she wants. The teachings of Islam are seriously all over the place and so inconsistent it can drive you bonkers trying to figure out how to do life. We also have a video about divorce if you're interested in knowing how bad this can get for Muslim women. I wanted to highlight one of the comments on Sayat's video from a Muslim. Then I want to debunk it and give you the real scoop on what a good parent actually is compared to what this Muslim guy says a good parent is. Quick pause. If you are enjoying this kind of content so far where I explore the murky world of Islamic marriage, click subscribe and consider joining me on Patreon. I will leave the link to Patreon in the description below. Let's get back to the video now. This comment has so many things wrong with it, but let me read it to you first, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
I know these are difficult conversations, but I want to express this word of advice as a brother. Family is the most sacred institution in Islam and all pre-modern religions and societies. More importantly, guidance from both mother and father is crucial not only for child rearing, but lifelong support. A feminist will always view the world differently and see the world according to their lens of womanhood, woman rights, and woman empowerment, downplaying all other contexts. A Christian will see the world according to the current situation of the Bible, their pastors, their culture, and so on. When we seek to have guidance not just from our mothers, but our fathers, then their Islam is very important. It influences how we see the world and the type of advice we are given. A non-Muslim parent or guardian will give advice which ignores traditional family values or is emotionally driven based on Western beliefs. Our emotional responses are often grounded in cultural values besides our fitra. Hence, as many comments from Muslims sincerely suggest, it would be better to ask a Muslim man in the community who is well off, since you are popular and have a big following, who could be a suitable Muslim father and husband to your Muslim mother. Your stepfather can still be someone you share a close relationship with, but having a Muslim father will give you solace. Knowing your father will go to Jannah, your mother has the best Muslim husband, as you know, the brother, and your family can continue to grow stronger in Islam, and also as an inspiration for many other Muslims and families struggling. This is my advice. I know not everyone who watches your content is Muslim, but good luck. May Allah give you success in your affairs.
Whew, that was long-winded and so painful to read. Wow. Okay. So, this guy says that guidance from a mother and father is crucial. I agree with that. But the sad part is that this guy is referring to a family unit that consists of only a Muslim mother and a Muslim father. He also starts rambling on about examples from feminists, as Muslim men always do. This is pretty typical. They're always whipping out their moldy, crusty feminism bag card. He also goes on and on about Christians and their worldview, and then he says something really, really strange. That non-Muslims give advice that ignores traditional values and is emotionally driven on Western beliefs. I'm sorry, but what in the word salad is that? You know, I'm not an atheist, and I'm not affiliated with any sort of belief system at this point in my life. But my parenting is based on years of studying psychology and the many theories surrounding child development, which I will get into in a bit. I am always looking at what the research says for this and that, and I use that as a guide for how to be the best mom I can be. My daughter never had a father until I met Abdullah, so tell me why my daughter has no emotional problems and is just like any other child. It's because she had a resilient mother who modeled that resilience to her, and I have given her endless protective factors to safeguard her in this life. This guy has it all wrong, painting every single parent but a Muslim one to have the bad or wrong ideas about raising children in life. One of the things that stood out to me the most in this comment was something that a lot of Muslims do. They will give you unhelpful or unwanted advice. He goes on to assume what Sayat's mother's needs are, if she even has any, and then says that because he is popular, her son is popular, with a big following, he needs to find someone in the community who is well off and will marry his mother. Dude, I couldn't find that when I was 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. I couldn't find that at all, like at any of those ages. So not sure, like, where are those men, because I never found one. So I'm sorry, but I want to ask this guy, are you literally okay? He just told an entire story about how meaningful his stepfather is to him, how he taught him to be a man, and now you're assuming that breaking up this whole family unit is the best possible outcome. He ends it with, "This is my advice." First of all, dude, no one asked for your advice. Muslims love this word advice. They absolutely love it, and they salivate over it. They love it because it gives them the ability to be religiously emboldened to say things to people that will only anger them or hurt them, and then they can turn around and justify it by saying, Islam literally commands people to advise. Muhammad and Allah, what the hell? You literally did the world dirty by making this whole advising be an immortalized thing. Now everyone is going to be forever annoyed by unwanted advice until the end of time. If you only knew that advice is not asked for, wanted, or helpful when the person receiving it did not ask for it. This guy commenting is under the false assumption that Sayat doesn't know the truth about his religion, so he's using religion to give him advice he never asked for. Now that I pointed that out, I want to get back to the crux of what it truly means to have a good outcome as a child. Like, what is needed from the parent or caregiver? What do all these famous psychologists have to say about what is needed to be a good father or mother? We have all kinds of theories to work with, guys, none of which were founded by Muhammad or have anything to do with the inception of Islam. In fact, childhood was not a thing, historically speaking. So it makes sense Muhammad had no clue what he was talking about regarding children, and probably a big reason why he married a child himself. Parental influence matters in a huge way, especially in early life for a child. The research consistently shows that a child needs a strong relationship with at least one caring adult to be resilient, which is what Sayat had with his mother, until she remarried and added his stepfather as a second caring adult in his life. He wasn't Muslim, just a caring and supportive parent who raised him and helped him learn how to become a man. Islam had nothing to do with Sayat's good outcome. Children also need structure, which is what his mother remarrying a high-quality man gave Sayat and his brother in their childhood. Famous psychologist John Bowlby's attachment theory states that a secure attachment to a caregiver is the single most important predictor of later emotional and relational health. Albert Bandura's social learning theory says that children learn by watching and imitating models, meaning their outcome depends heavily on the behaviors they see reinforced around them, such as kindness and resilience. Carl Rogers, who is arguably my favorite psychologist, says that children flourish under unconditional positive regard. A child who feels accepted and valued grows into a confident, self-actualizing adult. I love humanistic psychology. If you ever find yourself in need of a therapist, look for someone who practices humanistic psychology. It's so healing. I could go on forever and ever, but do you see where this is going? Muslims can argue that Islam is what is needed and talk about the fitra, which is described as a natural, inborn disposition a human has to recognize and submit to Allah, because Muslims believe that all of us are born Muslim, and it's just a matter of time before we act on our fitra and get with the program Allah and Muhammad have come up with. The thing that's strange about this is that there's so much religious diversity in the world. People of many different faiths and spiritual paths that they are born into or choose themselves later in life, so the whole fitra thing seems very suspicious. But don't worry, Muhammad will swoop in to absolve Allah of any responsibility for creating religious diversity. Listen to this hadith. Narrated Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, "Every child is born with a true faith of Islam, and his parents convert him to Judaism or Christianity or Magianism, as an animal delivers a perfect baby animal. Do you find it mutilated?" Okay. As I was recording this video, I had to stop and ask Abdullah what the hell Magianism was and how to pronounce it. I still may have not pronounced this word right. I had world religions as a minor, and I never ever heard this word before. So basically, it's another way of saying Zoroastrianism, which I have heard of, obviously. Abdullah and I were laughing because he said to me, the fact that Muhammad used a word like this goes to show Islam was not meant for all time. He always says these little gems that make me laugh and think. Anyways, I found this to be strange when I was a Muslim, that Allah would create Christianity, fake the crucifixion of Jesus, and then send all of those people to hell for not believing in Islam. Why would you do humanity dirty like that, Allah? You purposely misguided people so that they could spend an eternity in hell? It sounds like Islam wasn't a well thought out plan if it came after Judaism and Christianity. Wouldn't an all-knowing creator just get shit right the first time? Also, don't you love how Muhammad compares humans to baby animals? We are all born perfect, aka upon the fitra of Islam, and then we are corrupted by our own parents so we can be misguided. Damn you, parents! I don't know about you, but I am going to stick with what famous psychologists have echoed in one way or another, and that has been proven over decades of research, that a child's upbringing is dependent on the ecosystem a child is raised in. Authoritative parenting, structured parenting, education, and a strong relationship with one caring adult, among many others. In conclusion, Sayat is a walking example of a good outcome, which completely debunks every Muslim who claims we're all miserable and unsuccessful without Islam. Prominent Muslim speakers give apocalyptic-style talks when it comes to raising kids in the West, making Muslim parents feel a sense of pending doom and fear if their children do not grow up with Islam. We can see from so many examples that this is not only wrong, but it's fear-mongering over a problem that doesn't even exist. If you like this video, give it a like and click the subscribe button to keep up with everything we are doing on our channel. My husband and I are a team in this, and we love to talk about the Dawah underbelly, women's issues in Islam, social issues in Islam, and, well, everything about Islam. Join us on Patreon if you want to help us create more videos like the one you just watched. This is Mrs. Friendly Ex-Muslim signing out.